Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Retirement Advantage. Today we're going to be discussing year-end census data collection. My name is Bill Sunigal. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for the Retirement Advantage. Today's presenter is Kyle Hazen, Client Relationship Manager. Before we go any further, I just want to review the functionality of Gotowebinar. Your active participation is very important throughout the session. Right now everybody's on mute just to avoid any background noises that may distract you from listening. You do, however, have the ability to submit questions using the chat or questions pane located near the bottom of the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can enter the questions or comments in either of the boxes throughout the presentation, and your questions will be answered at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. I would now like to hand off the mic to Kyle.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Kyle Hazen. I've been with TRA for 6 years. If you have any questions, we will have some time at the end, and as always, feel free to contact our office at 1-800-872-2364 if you have any questions, and your relationship manager will be happy to assist. So let's get started. By now, you probably have already received an email from the Retirement Advantage stating that you have a year-end data collection that needs to be completed. If you receive the email, you will have a link that will send you out to tra401kclient.com. If you haven't, you can also go on that link on your own as well. Once you get out here, you will actually see what you see on my screen currently, which is a login and password option. So this is secure. It is specific just to your company, and nobody else should be using your ID. If you have never logged in for the first time, you will hit the option first time user and put in your email address, and it will send you a password. It's pretty instantaneous, probably only 5 minutes or so. Your email address will actually be your user ID, and once you receive that, you will just put in your email address, and then your password will be the one that is actually emailed to you. It will require you to change it after you receive that, so you'll want to make sure that you write that down and keep that. If you ever forget it, you can always hit the forgot password, type in your email address, and start back that way. So I have another screen here that's already logged in and open. So once you log into the Retirement Advantage Plan Sponsor link, this is what you'll see in different format, obviously. You might see some PDF documents out here that actually belong to the document section. Everything that goes into the My Active Task is anything that's new that has never been opened. So once you open it, it moves. The year-end data collection, that is one piece that doesn't move. That will stay under your active task as long as the task is open. So the year-end data collection for 1/1/16 through 12/31/16, you'll hit the Begin Task option. I want to note that once you start this process, you can close out of it if you have to come back and do some pieces later or get further information. As long as you hit the Save button throughout the process, you will be able to jump back in where you left off. So there won't be a time where, unless you don't hit Save, that you can't jump back in, and it will save your data. So the first 6 steps, when you come in here, you'll actually see I've completed the first ones for you. The first ones will all have a orange arrow. Those are ones that need to be completed. Green check boxes in the steps option means that they have been completed, and a red X means that it has not been completed. There's probably something missing when you hit the Save button. So the first one is general, which actually just visits your company contact information. It's going to be your address, any contact numbers. You can feel free to make any changes, which is always the edit button. It's the piece of paper with a pencil. You'll see that option many times throughout this process, as well as the green dot with a plus sign. That's going to be an add button. So if you needed to change your address, you could always hit the add button, make your changes, and hit save. Another thing you'll see throughout the process is notes. So if you ever have any changes that need to be made or questioning, maybe something we have, or an address might be changing down the road, or a contact, or whatever it may be, you can actually put a note in there, and that will notify us of what changes need to be made, and we can actually call you if there's questions on that or make those changes appropriate for your plan. So once you've completed that first step, it probably will be a verification process. Your address should already be in there, so it will be a verification, so you'll just hit save. The second step, I'm going to have to do one by one here. The second step was going to be company. So this is going to be anything related to your company specific, your EIN, your year-end, your entity type, and payroll frequency. You'll see that any of these items all have a red asterisk. Those are items that must be completed in order for you to complete the process. We will put in the information that we have on file in here. So most of these are all verification, and you can just hit save if everything is correct. And it will put you into the third step, which is principals. Principals is going to be any owners or officers of the plan. Everything should always equal 100%. In this case, we have one that says 200% because we have a sample, but you should be at 100% in ownership in the corner by the time you're done. It will give you an error if you didn't have that, but you can also do any editing or adding. Any plans that have been here for a while will have this data in here. Anything that would be new to TRA, we would not have this data in here, just to make sure that you can put that data in for this year. So a brand new plan, you will have to enter the data. A prior year plan, this would be filled out for you, and you can add the data with the green plus sign or edit. The red dot with a minus sign is delete. That would be if somebody left. So you can put the data in there. The notes section, again, it'll be in here if you want to put a note in. Maybe it's a bank or there's a bunch of owners and you don't know, it doesn't equal 100%. You can put a note in here. You can hit save. It will just give you a warning, and you can actually continue through. So you hit save. The fourth step is family. Family relationships are going to be anything of family attribution. So mother, father, son, daughter, and husband, wife will all be a relationship, family relationship. So a cousin or an aunt or uncle, they would not be considered due to family attribution, just a direct relation. So again, you would just add anybody in here who, with the green plus sign, if you have a participant that is related to an owner. If you are editing, you want to edit somebody that's already out here, you click the edit button, and the red dot with a minus sign is delete. If all of that's complete, you might not even actually have any family relationships in the company as well, and you can leave that blank in here. So if there are none, you would just hit save, and it would send you on to the next step. Step 5 is going to be other businesses owned. So any companies that you own, you would want to list in here. If it's a lot of times, if it's a building that is being owned and there are no employees, you probably still want to add that in here because there is some ownership in something else. You do have the option to put employees in here. Most likely, we see a lot of times somebody will own a building that their office is held in. So you could add that in here with the add button. In this case, it's kind of the same situation like we have here with ABC Company. We show them as an S Corp with their address and that there are no employees, but there is an owner at 100%. So again, if there are none under this step, you would just leave it blank and you could move forward. If there is, you would hit the green plus sign and move forward. The last part of the 6 steps that are just general information is going to be the context section. That is going to have all of our information that we have as contacts in our system. So your advisor, your plan sponsor, any main contacts, sometimes your accountant will be in there. Anybody who you have given us the okay to have in our system to speak with will be on this section. So you are able to make any changes that are needed. You can put notes in here. If you want us to remove somebody, it will not let you delete somebody off of the system, but you could put a note in here saying, please delete demo plan sponsor and replace with such and such. So if there is a change that you need to have made, you can do that. and you can hit save through here. So this is just the last verification piece. If everything is good, you would still hit save. The questionnaire section, which is step 7, this is going to start the questions where we are asking specific questions about your company. So the few that are on here that are all asterisks, those have to be completed because they are pertinent to the testing that we do complete every year. So I won't touch on every single one of them. The main ones that we do receive a lot of questions on are if your plan holds non-traditional assets. So that, like it says in the number 5, this company stock, artwork, precious metals, if anything is holding, the plan is holding or the company holding non-traditional assets, you will want to answer that question. The other one is number 7. I want to touch on that one. The question asks, have all newly eligible employees been offered the opportunity to participate? Once a participant satisfies your eligibility, if your plan requires on a specific date, you will want to offer them the plan. Hopefully the answer is yes for this option, but you'll want to make sure that you are offering the plan to participants. Some plans do not offer, for instance, a part-time employee and to be in their plan. Some plans do. So those is what you want to watch with. If you check no to that, your relationship manager will contact you, and then we can go over any necessary steps that need to be made to get that completed correctly. The other option is, or item I should say, is number 10. On the census section, you will be asked to give all employee information. So anybody who works for you as a general rule and receives compensation, a W-2 per se, they should be on this census. Even if they're not participating, if they were brand new, everybody should be on the census. So you'll want to make sure that you answer yes to this question. It's mostly a preemptive question into our census, but you'll want to make sure that you are reporting all of your employees that are receiving compensation. If you have a participant or an employee that's working for you that is on a leave of absence, there is an option in the census that does have a date saying that they are either disabled or terminated. That's something that might require you to put a note in this section stating, you know, I have some people who are on, they're not deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration, but they would be considered on a leave of absence. Maternity leave would be a big one. That's something you'll want to put a note in here on, and you can just add the notes up at the top. But you'll want to make sure you always have every employee on there. You might get an error stating that, or you will get an error stating that under the census that you have an employee that is working for you that doesn't have a termination date and doesn't have hours or compensation. That census is constantly scrubbing, so it will be looking to make sure that you have it completed and pulling out some of the errors that could be in there due to that, that information. The other ones I want to touch on is where the contributions start. So for this plan that we're working on, for instance, this one is only addressing matching contributions and employer discretionary, which would be a profit sharing. If you have safe harbor in your plan, you will have an additional section in here, just like items 15 through 25, showing that you have safe harbor. So it'll be the same thing for all of the contributions, different buckets of money that you may have. So for instance, let's say you're wanting to do a matching contribution. You would check yes under this option, and the system kind of walks you through that process. Number 17 on here is going to ask you, what is your formula? So maybe you're doing dollar for dollar on the first 3%. This is actually an open item for you to type in and let us know exactly what you're wanting to do. We get a lot of instances where you want to say it's the same as last year, there was no change. We prefer that you'd actually put a formula in here, but I have seen it where someone would say same as last formula from the prior year, and that's perfectly fine. If we have any questions, we will always reach out and ask you once this is finished and we get it on our side. I'm going to type in here. The other item on here is going to ask if you need TRA's assistance with the allocation. Maybe you're depositing your matching contribution as you go, so you would put no, or you want TRA to calculate it and get it to you by a specific date so you can give that information to your accountant. Either option, yes or no, that you check in this line item, we will always check your figure. If you give us a formula and you're depositing it, we will check those numbers that you are depositing off of that formula just to make sure. So any true-ups or adjustments that need to be made, we can address those in the letter, and your relationship manager would reach out to you to assist you on those items. If you have not deposited per payroll, you would probably check no here, and number 19, it would address a date. So we do require 15 business days to prepare an allocation. So you would put this date 15 days out, and then from there you would submit this data. This will go the same for the profit sharing, which starts on line item 20. Same questions apply. It's going to ask you for what you're going to actually do. So if you want to do a profit sharing, you would click yes. If you're going to say yes, you're going to say what you want to do as a formula. If you want to max out owners, there is actually an option under number 25, which will actually state percentage of pay, a dollar amount, maximum amount available, or not yet determined. Sometimes you don't have that amount determined, so you could stop at this point and you could hit save and you could move forward. We would still stop this once we got it to our office, and we would hold on to it until you had a date. So once you're through here, you can actually make your changes. Say you want to do $150,000 profit sharing. We would do $150,000 profit sharing, and you could put in your date at that point and say you want maximum amount available. You can actually send us a message saying, hey, I want to max out the owners and give the minimum to the staff. At that point, you can put maximum amount available. We would reach out to you to see how you would want further on your numbers that we would be giving. If you want a multiple allocation, whereas you want a 3%, a 6%, and a 8% formula for a profit sharing to see what you would do, I want to point out that you do receive one free with the work that we complete. Anything beyond that, TRA will charge an hourly rate of $250, and those additional allocations would be charged for that. But the first one is for free with the work. Number 26 is going to visit your forfeitures. A lot of times I get questions where you don't know what your forfeiture balance is, and that's okay. You can always call our office and we can look that up for you. Say you wanted to do a match, you can allocate it to reduce any employer contribution minus a safe harbor contribution, just a profit sharing or a match. You can allocate it as a profit sharing total. So say you have $4,000 in your forfeiture account, you can use that to allocate as your profit sharing. So if you have a $10,000 profit sharing, you want to reduce it, you would click the reduce. If you just want to allocate as a profit sharing, you would click as a profit sharing, and we would just do the $4,000. It would be probably a pro rata allocation. At that point, your CRM or relationship manager would reach out to you, and we would go over those numbers. If your plan is new, you would check number 17 on the date that your deferrals began. This is very important because if your plan starts on 1/1 and your deferrals don't start until 3/1, the compensation that was made prior to that date would not be considered for a employer contribution potentially. So we always need to have that date. This is only for first-year plans. So if you have a first-year plan, you will put a date that your deferrals actually started, which would be the first payroll date. Or if you're a current plan that you've had since, let's say, 2006, you would just leave that blank and skip forward. If you do not check this box because it does not have a red asterisk and you do have a new plan, your CRM or relationship manager would reach out to you and go over that as well. So we will look at that as well. Number 28 is also going to apply to new plans only, letting us know if anybody in a prior year made over $120,000. That is the highly compensated employee threshold for the year 2016, actually for 2015, 16, and 17. So that has not changed for the past 3 years, so you would just actually type in here who you had as a person that was receiving compensation over $120,000. Once you have completed this section, you can hit Save at the bottom. And the last section of the questionnaire, step 8, has a few questions for you regarding anything on your 5500. So number 1 is going to refer to if you've had any late deposits and loan payments in that prior year. So we're working on 2016 and 2017. It's just referring to the 2016 year. Anything defined as late deposits would be anything after 7 days of your payroll date. So if you get paid this Friday, you have until next Friday to have your deposit made at your investment company. If it is late, you would have to contact our office and we can help you calculate a lost earnings calculation. Hopefully it's not late. It's kicked me out, so let me log in here. I apologize for that. So under number 1, if you have late deposits, you hopefully are answering no. If you do, check yes, that's fine as well, and your relationship manager will reach out to you and discuss those options with you. Number 2 on here is going to ask if you had the late deposits, do you want TRA to calculate the lost earnings for you? So if you check yes, we would be contacting you regarding that. If you don't have late deposits in number 1, you can leave number 2 alone. Number 3 gets a lot of questions, and that's regarding your bond. If you do not know what your bond is, you would contact your property casualty insurance, and they should be able to give you the bond that you had in prior years. If you do not have one, you would need to contact your property casualty insurance company and let them know that you need a fiduciary bond, or sometimes it's referred to as a fidelity bond. This bond must be at least 10% of your plan assets at the end of the year. So if you contact them, you'll just have to let them know that, and you would give them the ending balance. If you don't have that, we can assist you with that. Just contact your relationship manager and we can walk you through that. If you do have one, you would end up putting the dollar amount in there. And if you had it last year and you don't know what it is, give us a call. That is reported on your 5500 to the IRS, so you'll want to let us know either way. If you have one and you don't know the amount, we can give that to you to put in here, or if you have no coverage, then you'll need to claim that for that year that you had no coverage. That is reported to the IRS, and you probably want to get that done as soon as possible. So in this case, I'm just going to put that we have, I should reference the auto inflation guard. Auto inflation guard is actually what is going to move the bond each year, so you don't have to mess with it. If you talk with your property casualty insurance company and state that you want an auto inflation guard, this protects you from essentially over-insuring yourself. There's no reason to insure yourself for $500,000 in your plan and you only have $100,000 in it. You would be over-insuring, and I know the rates are very cheap, but you know, that's money in your pocket. Again, you should contact your property casualty company if you would like to discuss that further with them. So in number 4, again, that's not a asterisk item. If you don't have one, you would leave that blank. Number 5 is going to ask you if you had any resolution to terminate your plan during the plan year. Hopefully the answer is no. If you do answer yes, we do contact you regarding that. We probably may have already been notified if you are terminating your plan, and this could be the last years of work that we're completing. This would only go into regard of a plan termination, not a service termination. Number 6 is regarding any assets or liabilities transferred during the year. That would be if you purchased a company that had a plan and you are acquiring that plan into your plan. So in this case, we'll answer no, but it will ask if you've purchased a company and you are acquiring them and they do have a 401k plan, you would want to let us know the name of the plan, the EIN, the amount that was transferred into your plan, and most likely we've assisted you if that has happened, but we still require that information is on here. Number 12 is the last item of the questionnaire. It's asking if you'd like to be a feature reference to TRA clients. We hope that you answer yes, but you do have the option to click no, and you can hit save. Once you hit save, you're on the last piece of the questionnaire, which is actually our census. This is probably the most important piece to this, and I want to let you know that it will have this red in here saying click to view the issues. The census is always scrubbing itself, so having no data or a little bit of data is going to show that you have errors. Don't worry about that. I want to point out 2 items on here. The import-export item on the left side of the gray line has a piece of paper with the arrow pointing up and one with it pointing down. The down is to export into Excel spreadsheet. If you click the XLS, it will download one into Excel for you, and you can fill out the data from that point. The one piece of information on the census is that you leave the integrity of the census the way that it is that you export it. So when you re-import, you're sending in the same exact thing. You can hide columns while you're working on it, but you can't delete, I wouldn't delete any columns because the system will give you errors. Essentially what you export, we're looking for as an import. So the instructions tab is actually the first tab you see in Excel when you open it, and that will walk you through filling out the census. This tab is actually needed to, when you import, the system looks for that having 2 tabs, so please don't delete the instructions tab. The second tab is the employee section, which will have all of your participant information. Any employees who worked here in the 2016 year, you would put on this census. Some of the columns you will not necessarily use. Maybe your plan doesn't require exclude pre-entry compensation, which is compensation earned prior to becoming eligible for the plan. For instance, if Sally Smith came into the plan on 7/1, but she would have been eligible at the beginning in March, we would exclude the compensation if that was excluded in the document, and you would put that compensation in here for that period of time. Gross compensation is a huge question we get often, and that is gross wages. You would want to get this information off of a payroll report. We try not to get items, request our items coming from W-2s because sometimes things are subtracted off, like Section 125. So you'll want to make sure that you are pulling a payroll report from your payroll provider and getting the gross compensation from that report. Pretexts and Roth, salary deferrals, those are what actually comes out of a participant's paycheck. They're contributing that themselves. Employer match, safe harbor, employer contributions, or other, those are something that the company would be contributing on the behalf of a participant. If you are using the other contribution column, for instance, if you have a fringe benefit or whatever it may be, and you put an item in there or a dollar amount in there, we will be calling you on that because we won't know what it is until we have verification from you. So once you do fill this out and save it to your computer, you do have the access to import it back into our system, and this would fill out this section for you and you'd verify your totals. If you only have a few participants that you want to put in here, or it's just yourself, there is an option over here with the green plus sign like we've seen throughout this process, and you can actually hit that button and add an employee one by one. A field will open up and you can add any of those open items in there. The red asterisks again are the ones that are required to fill out, and that big question of reason for separation, there are only 3: death, disability, or termination. That'll be the same for the Excel spreadsheet. Under reason for separation, again, it's still death, disability, or termination. If somebody is just quit, you won't want to write the word quit in the census. They will be considered a terminated employee. So once you've added somebody in here, you'll see Sally Smith under this. You can actually edit the employee again under the edit button, which is the piece of paper with a pencil, or you can delete that person if you've added them incorrectly, which is the red dot. This is a scroll bar down at the bottom, which will check all of your numbers, and it will total once you are finished in this area. If you do add all of your individuals in here and or upload a census, you'll still want to click on the click to view issues if there are issues at the end of the process. This is going to let you know if you've made any errors. One of the warnings, like specifically for this, would be at least one person will have deferrals. The system is looking to see if this the deferrals are blank. Sometimes they are, so you can ignore the warnings. Those are just warnings and they will let you submit. Errors is one that will not let you submit, so you'll want to fix those errors that happen. Most likely it would be a date that would be missing, and that would give you an error. Once you have finished your census and everything is imported, if you need to leave any notes in here, as always, we encourage you to put notes in there or contact your relationship manager and we can assist you. The view summary is going to have all of your totals at the bottom, so you can verify that against your payroll reports or Excel spreadsheets, whatever you may use. Once you've completed that, you can hit the Save button, and the system is going to say you have warnings. In my case, we know what that warning is. You can click here to view it, or if you have errors, it won't let you go forward. You can hit the Continue and Save anyway. That will submit it to our office. The last step, which is step 10, is making sure that you have every step completed. All of the boxes have a green checkbox, and you're ready to go. You can hit the Sign and Submit button, type in your name, your email address, and hit Submit. And that will send you an email letting you know that your process has been completed and we have received it, and it will send you back to your active tasks. In this case, it's gone now. So now you won't see that out there. If we have any questions regarding what you have filled out, we will give you a call. We might send you an email as well at the same time just to get verification of some items that we may have questions on. So just be open to that once you get a phone call that we may be questioning something you put in there. With that being said, that's pretty much it. I hope that everybody understands what I've done here today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. We're always here to help.
Thank you, Kyle. Looks like we have quite a few questions that have already filtered through, so I'll just jump right into those. First one, if I need to exit the collection partway through, will information I previously answered save, or will I need to re-enter it?
Yes, it would save. So once you do go in and you hit save under something, it will put you back in where you started. So if you click Save on the General section and you have to close out, once you log back in, it will put you under the General section again.
Thank you. Next question. How do I get my accountant access to the site to answer these questions?
If you have somebody that you would like to have added to the system, please feel free to reach out to your relationship manager and send an email or a phone call We prefer something in writing stating that you would like to add somebody, and we can get them access. Once we have that item submitted, we would reach out to that specific person and make sure that they have all of the information to log on.
Thank you. Next question. When is this information needed by?
Well, the information's needed as soon as possible, as always. If you do have a deadline, whereas your plan is tested for ADP and ACP testing, the IRS does have a 3/15 deadline that has to be completed for failures. So you'll want to make sure that your census and questionnaires are submitted as soon as possible. We prefer to have them before the 15th of February, so we have some time to get that information back to you.
Thank you. Next question. What if you have two companies under one plan?
So two companies will be a multiple employer plan. If you already have a plan that is in your plan, so you have the two plans and all of those people from both those plans are participating, you would still put all of those participants in the same census. So both companies under the same plan, everybody is under the same census.
Thank you. What if the company is in a trust for listing principals?
Then you would actually list the trust. So if there is under the principal section, you can list a trust underneath that section. Under the name, you would just put the trust and you would put the ownership. It's not necessarily going to make you put an officer or a title. And again, you can always put notes in that section, and you could hit save here without putting anything in and put notes in that section to let your relationship manager know, and they would reach out to you.
Thank you. Next question. If our owners own other companies but with a different tax ID number, do I need to list these as additional business owned?
You should always list other businesses owned just so we have it on file. They may not be related to this business or even participating in the plan, but it's something that we want to watch each year and keep on our system. The first time that you enter them in step 5 under the other businesses owned, that will stay in there. So going forward in future years, all of that information will stay in there. So you'll want to give us as much information as possible because we are preparing a report for you, and we can hold on to that information in your document.
Thank you. Next question. We made our matching contribution with every payroll. Question 19 is asking what date we plan to use. What should we put in here?
So under 19, it's going to ask you, so if you're doing it per pay period, let's go to question 19 here, you would not probably put in a date because you're already making that deposit per pay period. You could put that you want us to check it, or if you want us to, or I should say, you should say that how frequently you're making it. This one we're looking at is actually a safe harbor one. But you wouldn't put anything in there. We would still review it and ensure that you have a correct dollar amount in case there was adjustments that need to be made, but you wouldn't put a date in there.
Thank you. Next question. Do we need to list ineligible employees covered under a CBA?
That might be a question I'll have to ask. You should always have every single person that's listed in your company that's receiving pay on that census, and you can put the notes under the employee section regarding those specific people that are, but that's going to be really plan specific, and you'd want to talk with your relationship manager about that.
Thank you. What is the pre-entry contribution field?
The pre-entry contribution field would be compensation that is earned prior to becoming eligible for the plan. So if, for instance, like we had in the previous one, Sally Smith, if she came into your plan on 7/1, let's say she started on 10/1 of 2014. Her 1 year would bring us to 10/1 of 2015, and she would come in on 1/1. Sometimes if somebody's coming in the middle of a year where you have 3 months entry, there's that compensation that is earned prior to becoming eligible for the plan, and that's what that column is for. So if you exclude compensation in your plan prior to becoming eligible, that's the column you would use.
Thank you. What is the last day for filing profit sharing for the previous year?
That's a good question. The deposit for any employer contributions is the due date of your corporate tax return, including extensions.
Thank you. And then please repeat the website that needs to be accessed to complete the census. So if you could just share that URL.
Yeah, say that again. Oh, the URL on there?
Yeah.
If you go to tra401kclient.com, this one is actually the link to it because I'm already logged in here. I can log out and you can have the URL, which is the plan sponsor link.com/tra401k/login.
Thank you. Next question. If we have already submitted our data, do we still need to complete this online?
If you've already submitted your data, no. You wouldn't have to submit this. A questionnaire, if you've already submitted the questionnaire in Census, yes, you would. If you've received a census and you're sending it in to a relationship manager, you'd have to discuss that situation directly with them. There could be a different instance for each person. Maybe you're just submitting a census and you haven't done the questionnaire part, and so they can assist you with that part.
Thank you. Next question. If you export the Excel file, are there any rules for adding lines of data? Example, above the totals line to keep the integrity of the Excel file.
So no, you can actually add lines. That would be adding participants to the line. Columns is what you would not be able to add or delete. The integrity of it is really just the column section. I should have actually said that a little bit better. So good question. The columns of here need to be the same, but the lines you can add as many as you need.
Thank you. Next question. When I log into TRA now, I don't have this screen. When will these tabs in the tutorial appear, or should it already be accessible? My boss may have that login info. Do I need special access?
You shouldn't need special access. If you have the access to view, that access is given internally here. So if you don't see that, you'll want to contact your relationship manager. Everything should be under your My Active Tasks. It will not show anywhere else. So you'll want to contact your relationship manager directly. Maybe something doesn't show on there, and we can look into that for you.
Thank you, Kyle. It doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time. And if there aren't any other questions, we're going to wrap up this webinar session. We'll wait a couple more minutes. But just to reiterate, if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can contact your CRM directly at 888-872-2364. Again, that's 888-272-2364. And again, we'll wait a couple of minutes. And if there's no other questions submitted, another question. Where's the data stored? On a TRA server or in the cloud? I can answer that one. That one's going to be stored on a secure server. Doesn't look like any more questions are coming in. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this webinar session. Again, we appreciate your time and participation. Thank you and have a great rest of the day. And please remember, if you have any additional questions, contact your CRM directly at 888-872-2364. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kyle.